Hello, so chapter 11, The Expanding Republic. In this picture, you'll see how America is changing economically during this time period. This is a picture of the Erie Canal, one of the many innovations that were made back in this time period. And let's go into more detail about this time period. This is called the Market Revolution. And what caused the Market Revolution? Well, a few different things. First of all, transportation before 1815. Transportation before 1815 in the United States was slow and expensive. It cost as much to ship a crate over 30 miles of domestic roads as it did to send it across the Atlantic Ocean. Improved transportation. Between 1815 and 1840, networks of roads, canals, steamboats, and finally railroads dramatically raised the speed and lowered the cost of travel. The results of this improved transportation were that goods could be transferred faster into a variety of new markets. And also, the transformation of transportation happened as well. Uses of roadways increased, stagecoach companies proliferated, and travel time on main routes was cut in half. As early as in the early 1830s, more than 700 steamboats were in operation on the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. Canals also began to be used. The Erie Canal, completed in 1817, stretched all the way from Albany to Buffalo. And with all of these improvements in transportation, it allowed the transfer of goods to markets that were far away, so it expanded the market and contributed to America's economic expansion during this time. Here's another picture of the Erie Canal to give you an idea of what that might have looked like back at this time. Here in this map, you see the extensive networks of roads and rivers and major transportation routes in 1840. What else caused the market revolution? Well, factories, working men, and wage labor also changed the market. For example, textile and shoe industries. Transportation advances promoted the expansion of manufacturing after 1815, creating an ever-expanding market for goods. Factories. By 1815, nearly 170 spinning mills had been built along New England rivers. Working women, Young women embraced factory work as a means to earn spending money and build savings before marriage. Shoe manufacturing and wage labor. The shoe manufacturing industry was centered in eastern New England, reorganizing production and hiring women, including wives, as shoebinders who could work at home. Here's a typical mill worker at this time period tending a power loom, so you can see the type of work that they did in these factories. Other things causing the market revolution: bankers, lawyers, changes in the banking system. By 1830, there were 330 state-chartered banks, and by 1840, hundreds more. Banks stimulated the economy by making loans to merchants and manufacturers in the form of unique banknotes and by enlarging the money supply. Banknotes became the country's currency, as neither the federal or state governments issued paper money. The Second Bank of the United States, with 18 branches throughout the country, opened for business in 1816 under another 20-year charter. Lawyer politicians. Lawyers and politicians worked to rewrite laws that allowed corporations to flourish. By 1817, you had more than 1,800 different corporations. Lawmakers also wrote laws of eminent domain, allowing states to buy land for improvements, even if the sellers were unwilling. Andrew Jackson and those who agreed with him believed that ending government-granted privileges was the way to maximize individual liberty and economic opportunity. Booms and busts. With all of this economic activity comes the natural up and down cycle of an economy. In 1819, you have a panic where the Bank of the United States calls in its loans and insisted that state banks do likewise. The money supply then contracted, sending tremors throughout the economy. The crunch was made worse by a financial crisis in Europe in the spring of 1819. Reactions. Overseas, prices for American cotton, tobacco, and wheat plummeted by more than 50%. Thousands of Americans lost their savings and property, and unemployment, of course, increased, and about 500,000 people lost their jobs. Recovery took a few years. By the mid-1820s, the economy was back on track, but an undercurrent of anxiety about rapid economic change continued to shape the political views of many Americans. In 1828, there were some of these changes reflected in the election. For example, popular politics and partisan identity. On the first point, candidates and popular vote. The election of 1828 pitted Andrew Jackson against John Quincy Adams, and was the first presidential contest in which the popular vote determined the outcome. In 22 out of 24 states, voters, not state legislatures, designated the number of electors committed to a particular candidate. More than 1 million voters, nearly half of the free male population, white male population, participated. The election brought new campaign styles. State-level candidates routinely gave speeches at rallies, picnics, and banquets. Campaign rhetoric became even more informal and even blunt. Partisan newspapers in ever large numbers defined issues and publicized political personalities as never before. Partisan identity. By 1832, the terminology had evolved to National Republicans and Democratic Republicans. National Republicans favored federal action to promote commercial development. Democratic Republicans who promised to be responsive to the will of the majority. Between 1834 and 1836, National Republicans came to be called Whigs, while Jackson's party became simply the Democrats. Here is an example of an Andrew Jackson campaign poster, and you can see how for the first time in American history, politics is brought to the people. This is a typical poster that you might see in a town. This is before the days of Twitter, before the days of Facebook. This is electoral democracy, mass-produced for the masses. The election of 1828 and the character issue. For the first time, an election was dominated by scandal and character issues. These became central issues because voters used them to comprehend the kind of public official each man would make. John Quincy Adams' personality was used against him. He was vilified by his opponents as an elitist, a bookish academic, and even a monarchist. They attacked his corrupt bargain of 1824, for example. Pro-Adams newspapers portrayed Adams as pious, learned, and virtuous. Andrew Jackson was portrayed very differently. He had a fatherless upbringing. His supporters used that to portray him as a person who came from nothing, who could become something. He was also a rough man who participated in many duels, brawls, and canings. Canings would mean fighting with a cane against somebody. Jackson's supporters used much of the stories to project an image of Old Hickory, a tough frontier hero who knew how to command obedience. Jackson won a sweeping victory with 56% of the popular vote. After 1828, political parties started to change. As we know, we now had a two-party system again with Whigs and Democrats. Parties started to believe that partisan differences mobilized voters, and they tended to play to those voters. In the next lecture, we will talk about Jackson's policies and how he defined the presidency.